Hello my fellow weirdos, my name is Marie McWilliams and welcome back to my channel. For today's video we will be doing my recent reading wrap up. There's some alliteration for you. So as I said, we're doing a wrap up of my recent reads. Some of these books I will be doing individual review videos for, so I won't go into too much detail with those. But I will let you know what I thought about all of them broadly, and then you can, if you want to know more, go on and eventually look at those particular individual review videos. What I'm going to start with, Bearmouth by Liz Hyder. This is actually her debut novel. I don't normally read young adult, but with Instagram I get offers a lot to be sent free books, and I take that as an opportunity to kind of read outside my comfort zone. And this particular young adult is quite dark in its themes, in its style, and that really intrigued me, and so I said yes to reviewing it, and I'm really glad that I did. The premise basically takes place in a mine where Newt was sold there as a young girl and can barely remember the outside world. The people in the mine work all day for pittance. There are frequently accidents. They work themselves to death, basically. And the managers make all the profit. Sound familiar? Newt doesn't question how things are. You're told that things are the way they're supposed to be, that if anything happens to you and you do die in an accident, you'll go to meet the maker and you'll be rewarded in the afterlife. And in the meantime, you just keep your head down and work hard. But one day a boy by the name of Devlin comes to the mine and he asks a very simple question: why? Why are things the way they are? Why do we have to do this? Why are we treated like this? And that one word sends ripples throughout the whole colony, but especially within Newt. When she goes through quite a big internal struggle because her beliefs were always very sure. And suddenly she has someone coming in and she started questioning something that was a foundation for her. So that internal struggle is really well depicted in the book. Obviously that's what it's about on the surface, but in reality, when you delve down into it, it would be more about capitalism, the evils of capitalism. You've got poverty-stricken people being made poor, literally having to work themselves to death. They're paid absolutely nothing, and then they are constantly further indebted by the management. For example, if you need new shoes or equipment in order to work in the mine and do your job, you have to buy it yourself. If you want to go to the surface, it costs a fortune. So people actually can't get out of the mines even if they wanted to. And they also encourage them to drink beer as a way of escaping. So once a week you get beer, and they further debt themselves. So they get in so much debt that even if they wanted to leave, they'd never be able to afford to. They're basically trapped there their entire life in this vicious cycle. There's also sort of an indictment of organised religion, and it's used by governments, but in this case by management, as a means of control. In this book it's called the Maker, and on Sunday they all congregate to worship the Maker, and the management, it goes as far as saying, is they're almost like a representative of the Maker, so kind of like the Pope is with God. So to question them is to question the Maker. Things are the way they are, the Maker will reward you in the afterlife, etc., etc. It's all sort of done as a way of control. They're not allowed to meet except on Maker's Day, because obviously they don't want them like forming a union or rebelling or whatever. So I really loved the themes. I loved its dark style. I think that the characters were all beautifully written. I've given it 3.5 out of 5 though, and the reason that I did mark it down is because it all takes place from Newt's perspective, and she is learning to read in the book. And you'll see from the cover that words are spelled slightly more phonetically, so takes and maker and things like that have a Y in them, and revolution is spelled S-H-U-N at the end. That really conveyed her vulnerability and naivety really well, but at the same time it kind of got a bit frustrating for me reading it after a while, so that's why I marked it down slightly. But on my scale, 5 is like outstanding, read this immediately, I will shake you and make you read it, it's so good. So 3.5 out of 5 is actually still a really good read. It's worth reading. It's not a difficult book to get your head around. It's quick, easy escapism. And yeah, the topics, the way it's done, it's all very dark, quite heavy hitting for a young adult. I think it's definitely worth a read. If you're into young adult, definitely give this one a go. Next up we have the classic, The Shining by Stephen King. Now I know what you're thinking. How could a horror not like myself not have read The Shining before? I don't know. I just never got around to it. But I finally did, and it is a masterpiece. Definite 5 out of 5 from me. If you're not familiar with the plot of The Shining, then have you been living under a rock? But essentially it's about the Torrance family. They move to a hotel called The Overlook way up in the mountains. Jack, the father of the family, is going to be the caretaker because the hotel gets cut off in the winter seasons by all the snow. It's completely isolated, and he's there to keep the boiler running, to make sure the pipes don't freeze over, that windows don't get smashed in storms, that kind of thing. Him and his wife and his son are the family. Danny, the son, has a gift called The Shining, which is essentially psychic powers. He is perceptive of things that we don't pick up on, including the thoughts of other people. And that's all well and good, but unfortunately the hotel is full of evil and ghosts, and it's haunted as hell. And Danny, with his ability, acts like an almost battery to amp up everything that's going on in the hotel. And it sort of decides to use Jack as a means to keep Danny there forever by killing him, and it slowly drives Jack nuts. That's the premise. It's really, really well written. You have Danny is perfectly depicted as a young boy trying to grasp concepts that as a young child he can't grasp, but he shouldn't have to grasp. He can hear these thoughts in adults' heads and they don't necessarily mean anything to him. Words like divorce and things like that, he has to learn what they mean when he hears his parents discussing it. So his struggle to cope with his powers, to cope with the responsibility of the powers, to cope with the messages and understand and decipher what's happening is really, really, really well done. The Jack's struggle as well, that's one of the bigger differences. Between it and the movie, Jack's struggle within himself is really well depicted, because he is torn between the love he has for his family and then the hotel and the little whispers in his voice, like Jabba's little mate on the shoulder being like and getting through to him, and he is constantly sort of battling with that. But yeah, it's a fantastic read. It's full of really creepy, sort of ever increasing sense of dread. The setting, the ghosts, everything is really well done. I'm going to do an individual video on it, which is sort of book versus movie, but in summary, 5 out of 5, read it, definitely read it. I also read the final 2 parts of The Fearing. I'm going to do a deep dive on all 4 parts of this book as well, so I'm not going to go too much into it either, but essentially The Fearing is a horror series in 4 parts, and it's like apocalyptic horror where we have all of the world's fears being enacted on the world simultaneously, starting off with the big shared fears like tornadoes, hurricanes, lava, that kind of thing, nuclear war, and then that wipes out the vast majority of the population, leaving a very small amount of people, and that's when the fears become more specific to those individuals that are left behind. So you've got things like the Ku Klux Klan, killer clowns, cannibals, spiders, that kind of thing. But this is all part of a great plan to ensure the continuation of the world and mankind, even though it might not seem like at the time. As I said, I'm going to do a deep dive into that and do a review on all 4 of the books, but I can't recommend this series enough. If you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of apocalyptic sort of novels, if you're a fan of psychology even, these are a great read. I gave these series 4.5 out of 5. I marked it down slightly because to me, I would have preferred to have all 4 parts as one book, rather than in 4 separate bits. So I only marked it down a little tiny bit, but yeah, 4.5 out of 5, definitely worth viewing. And finally, we have I Will Make You Pay by Teresa Driscoll. This is your standard psychological crime thriller. I'm going to do a review video of this one as well, but essentially it's about an investigative journalist by the name of Alice, who is being targeted by a stalker every Wednesday, and the threats are becoming increasingly more terrifying and potentially deadly. And herself and a private investigator that her boyfriend got her to hire are trying to find out who's stalking her, why they're stalking her, what Wednesday has to do with anything, before she ends up in a body bag. I really enjoyed this. It's just one of those easy kind of brain fluff books where you can just go with the flow and the action. I marked it down a little bit. I gave it 4 out of 5 because Alice irritated me at points, in the sense that she didn't share all the information she had with police, or they told her not to do something and she did do something and then she was put in danger again, and that kind of bothered me at stages. But it does explain her motives behind that. It just annoyed me personally, but it is definitely worth a read if you're into crime, if you're into thrillers. This one is a really good book. So yeah, good reading month all round. Lots of great books. What about yourself? Have you read any of those books? What did you think of them? Let me know in the comments down below. I will be doing individual videos for reviews of some of the books as I just mentioned. If you want to learn more about me and my channel, I will post a little link up above to my booktube newbie tag so you can learn more about me. But that's me for now. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to hit the bell button so you get an alert every time I post. But that's me. Bye for now.